when it comes to Niger, did you guys notice that they were missing completely from the UN General Assembly? So for those of you who've been paying attention, to this whole week of speeches where all the countries send their leaders to address the UNGA in New York, Niger was missing. Why do you think that is? Right now, the new government appointed a new foreign minister, okay, and he applied for credentials to go and address the UNGA, just like Lavrov, for example, who's the Russian foreign minister, went and addressed the UNGA. And they told him no. Keep in mind, this man is not only Niger's new foreign minister, he used to be Niger's ambassador to the UN. Okay, so of all people, I mean, there isn't anyone more qualified, nor is there anyone who has the credentials to go and address the UNGA as Niger's representative. He is the foreign minister, and yet they denied him his credentials. Why is that? Because the UN is clearly imposing and advancing the EU's agenda and France's agenda, and even the United States agenda. Remember, the Americans are not necessarily saying that, we are happy with the situation, but if they have to deal with it, it's very clear that they are more than happy to step aside and let the French be kicked out and just, keep their heads down so they can stay in the country. And that's what's happening. Have you seen the Junta, as they like to say, or the new government? Have you seen them say just once that we want the Americans out? No. Now, does that mean that they, personally, that they really want the Americans to say no? I think this is more of a question of them not being able to simply handle kicking out both the French and the Americans at the same time. So we'll see what happens in the future. But it's more important that they got the French out just for the sake, just because of the fact that France is the colonial power in Niger, right? Now, it doesn't mean the Americans aren't also, exercising or practicing their own version of colonialism in Africa, because they certainly are. But France especially, this relic, the stigma attached to having French troops owning Niger and French companies owning Niger, this has to go. Number one, there's no question about that. So they dealt with that. And you can see Macron, he's giving these hidden messages, isn't he? Right? He's saying these he has this double speak where he's saying that, if we leave Niger, and he said that they're leaving now, right, by the end of the year. So he says that if France leaves Niger, there will be no one left to fight terrorism, which is weird because the Americans are there supposedly, right, under the guise of fighting terrorism. Why does he say that? And another thing that he said that, in the last 2 months, so since the coup on July 26th, he says that in the last 2 months, you've had more people killed by jihadists in the Sahel than in the last 18 months. Is that an admission of guilt? I mean, I had my suspicions, I had my doubts, but when I hear that, it's like a mob boss who's sitting down and saying, like, you're not doing too well for yourself, are you, since I left, huh? You need to pay for protection, don't you? What does that mean? Is he saying that France has something to do with that? Because if you think for 1 second that it's beneath the French secret services, you have another thing coming. If you think for 1 second that they're different from the CIA, that they wouldn't do something like that just so Macron can go in front of a camera and say, you need us, look at what's happening to Africa. Oh, these jihadists are killing you without us. Clearly you need us to protect you. You don't think that they would have something to do with that? I'm just speculating. But it's not unfounded speculation, is it? They're not different from the CIA. On the contrary, they work together. So don't think for 1 second that, it's beneath them or the French wouldn't do something like that just to advance and maintain their presence in Africa. Oh, on the fucking contrary. Especially out of all places you could pick on the planet, it's Niger. Out of all places, it's especially Niger. They need that uranium. They need to stay in the Sahel. Whatever excuse they bring out, doesn't matter. Whatever excuse they cook up, doesn't matter. Don't believe it. Don't believe it for 1 second. And so this is very disgusting that, they wouldn't even allow Niger to address the UNGA because it's not Bazoum. In what reality do they think Bazoum has any exercise of power? In what reality does Bazoum still have any authority whatsoever. He is under house arrest. He is at home. He cannot do anything. He does not control one element of the Nigerian government. Not one element. Not one atom does he control. Have you seen anyone in Niger coming out to protest against the coup? On the contrary, people are they're jubilant. They're in the street, they're jubilating. They are begging the French to leave, and it worked. And it worked. What does that tell you? What does that say about Bazoum and, his expression of the people's will and what his authority looks like? It tells you that it's in line with the Quai d'Orsay, with the French Foreign Ministry. That's what it tells you. He's their guy. So of course they want him back. And that's why they had the UN exclude Niger from the UNGA, which is a very low move. Very low move. If there's anyone who represents the people of Niger right now, it's the new government who just managed to kick out the French. You see how people are happy. You see how every week for 2 months now, people have been protesting outside the base in Niamey, and they got what they wanted. We'll see next year if Niger is actually at the UNGA, and we'll see in the next weeks what happens with ECOWAS, this dud of an organization. Maybe they haven't lost their teeth, though. We'll see. But that was a giant bluff that they did on August 6th, right? They said there's a deadline. If you don't reinstate Bazoum, we're going to attack you, and nothing happened. They attack you with what army? Well, Nigeria has a sizable army, I won't lie. But, you just can't do this sort of thing. The mood in the region is very clear. They've kicked the French out of all these countries because they don't want the French anymore. Goodbye. They don't want you. They're sick of it. So it's time that, Macron, that ECOWAS, that everyone who represents their interests just, takes a hint, reads the room, sees what people are saying, which is goodbye, we don't want you. The whole region is saying it. It's not just Niger. Niger's the third country, and then you had Gabon on top of it having a coup which, against Bongo, who is another French stooge. Take a hint. Take a hint.